much for joining us on Politics Today. I'm Charles Eruka. Well, we'll begin where the action is. In Cross River State, where the governorship election held yesterday, of course, the results have been released, and the People's Democratic flag bearer, Mr. Leo Imoke, has been declared winner by the Independent National Electoral Commission. Well, according to results declared by the returning officer, Professor James Epoke, Governor Imoke scored 451,544 votes to defeat his closest competitor, Usani of the Action Congress of Nigeria, who placed a distant second with 31,026 votes. Now, at the end of that exercise, this was what the resident electoral commissioner of Cross River State, Mr. Mike Igini, said.
Perseverance, media men, observers, both local and international, all of whom have been in Cross River since last year, are the best assessor of what we have done in Cross River State. We know that election is about the people, but what is important for us as an umpire is the process. The process, we believe, if it is right, the outcome also will be accepted without fuse. And that is why we were strong. We were very, very keen on the issue of our procedure, that the procedure must be followed. What we have done since last year is to ensure that the will of the people expressed through the ballots will remain the most sacrosanct, the most legitimate way of conferring legitimacy on anybody. That is what we have done, and that's what we will do in the period to be in the commission. So that truly democracy and democratic values that at this moment we cannot derogate from will remain an abiding value for the development of our country. Thank you.
Well, that was the sum of the exercise, the governorship election in Cross River State, and you did hear from the electoral commissioner, Mr. Mike Igini. Well, all about the conduct of the elections. However, that exercise was trailed by protests from indigents of Bakassi local government area of the state, as the people condemned their exclusion from the exercise. Now, in their protest, they claimed they were disenfranchised from the exercise. But the state chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Mr. Ntufam Okon, said the issue of Bakassi had been what constitutes Bakassi, and adding that while some are canvassing that what constitutes Bakassi should be based on Cross River State Law Number 7, others were supporting the Bakassi people. Now, no fewer than 6,000 eligible voters from Bakassi who were said to have gathered at the Marina Beach in Calabar lamented that they had been disenfranchised following a court ruling that barred the Independent National Electoral Commission from conducting the exercise in that community. Now, the protesters, led by former presidential advisor on National Assembly matters, Senator Florence Itagiwa, wondered why they suddenly were disenfranchised by a court order which came at the close of work on a Friday. A federal high court in Calabar, presided over by Justice Adetokunbo Ademola, had on Friday stopped the conduct of the poll and subsequent ones in accordance with ward delineation based on the current Bakassi local government area created pursuant to Law Number 7 of the Cross River State House of Assembly, and not based on the ward delineation as existed before the ceding of the original Bakassi to Cameroon. Well, the legal, or should I say legalese, notwithstanding, we're about to we'll try to unravel all that, even as we are joined on the program, of course, on phone by Senator Florence Itagiwa to explain to us, what transpired in Bakassi local government before, during, and after the election. Hello, Senator Itagiwa.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, welcome to Politics Today. Well, you might be rather remote from where we are now, but it's good to have you on the program. Now,
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, your people, the people of Bakassi, were, so to say, not involved in yesterday's governorship election in Cross River State for certain legal reasons, but then would like you to state your own side of the story. Why were you protesting the exclusion of Bakassi, even though it was the decision of a court of competent jurisdiction?
Well, first of all, I would not question the integrity of the judiciary. Neither would I question the jurisdiction. But I find it strange that the same local government, the same location where we have conducted 3 previous elections. And if I can go back, where you register, where you freely went and registered is where you vote. And of recent, it has become a habit for Nigerians to go to their hometowns or villages to go and register. And every Bakassi person went to this thing to register, this thing 1, 2, and 3, and then for you to register. And on our voter registration card is 04, whereas the neighboring local government carries 03. And everybody was given the option to go and register where they want to register. So we went to register in this stream, and I went there and registered us, and we are all duly registered, and we carry our registration cards. Subsequently, elections were held, and we went back to vote where we registered, namely elections to National Assembly, which is the House of Representatives, and the Senate, followed by the presidential election, and then the state assembly elections. And as a matter of fact, the member representing Bakassi in the state assembly now is from this thing, it's from there. And we voted, and even after court judgment, he won his case, and is in the state house of assembly. Now, for some strange reason, a court order, because I've just been told an injunction by the court order. I'm not a lawyer, so I do not understand, I don't know their terminologies. But I do know that there was a judgment that after 3 elections that said now that we cannot vote or go there and vote in that district. Hello?
Yes, I'm listening.
Okay, which means that the entire about over 6,000 Bakassi people have been duly registered there. You understand? We're disenfranchised because we have gone, we have campaigned, we have sensitized the people. So at the beach, we have gone to the beach to cross now to go and vote. Electoral materials were on their way there. The visual security authorities have been put in place. Then that we are crossing, the river to go to vote. Only to be told that on the eve of the election, that there is a court order or court judgment that election cannot take place there. So I feel that that is rather strange. Some for one to be faced at the last minute with such judiciary ambush.
Well, very, very interesting use of terms here, Senator Tagiwa.
Indeed. Why would a judgment or court order or injunction, whatever they call it, arrive on Friday evening at about 5:30 in the evening? You understand why there will not be any opportunity for defend yourself or for you to even try to vacate it?
Well, your grievance is quite clear, but it's interesting to note that as a member of the People's Democratic Party, whether your people participated or not wouldn't have had any telling significant effect on the results of the election. After all, the governor, who is a member of your party, has won the election. I mean, this might sound, rather cold, but then, I mean, would your participation or your people's participation have had any telling a significant impact on the outcome of the polls?
Two things, you understand? We are very happy one election, one in the same party. You understand? It's our governor, we like him very much. We thank God that he has won the election, but there are two very, very significant things I'd like to let you know. In politics, I am a politician and I've done 4 elections. Every vote counts. And number 2, it will be very difficult for you to celebrate somebody's victory that you were not given the opportunity to vote for. So what role did you play in that person's victory? And how can you, as a people, go out, demand for electoral promises when you did not vote? What right, what power, what strength would you have to go and insist on the government of the voter into power to come and carry out electoral promises, you understand, or do things for your area when you did not vote for the person? These are the two significant points. And again, being disenfranchised, you understand, if a politician is not allowed to vote, it's like cutting off your right hand.
All right, one final question before we go, Senator Tagiwa.
You are mentally abused that to take your time to come out of it.
Well, we understand your grievance perfectly. Well, it's a legal thing, and for now it cannot be unraveled, but let's just hope that the law will take its course. But who exactly went to court over this Bakassi issue?
I'm sorry?
Who was it that filed a case that ended up in your constituency being disenfranchised?
Supposed to be, according to the legal terminology, that's supposed to be 4 months. And as we speak to you now, 2 of the so-called claimants have come out to say that they did not go to file for any case. So there's some, there is some sufficient name on that list.
Well, we'll get to the bottom of that.
Things are not gradually. We are children of God. We hold on to our God because people that have been trampled upon for so long that whoever tries to play any kind of games or tricks on us don't always help us unravel. And things are happening out of this. Maybe it is a good development. So it would help us to be much more proactive and not demand for our rights as bona fide Nigerian citizens.
Thank you very much, Senator Tagiwa. Thank you so very, very much. Rest assured that your grievance is well understood here, and this is not the end of the matter. Definitely we'll have another opportunity to talk about it at some other forum, but for now we thank you so much for joining us on Politics Today.
Thank you very much for having me.
We've been talking about elections in the Cross River State specifically, but of course the issue actually expands to include the issue of the governors who have been sacked by the Supreme Court. 5 governors, and elections have been conducted into their states, and the 6th governor is out of office, and that also constitutes a different political conundrum. But then, to look at the legal implications of these actions, I have with me 2 legal practitioners. First, on my immediate right, I'd like to welcome to the program Barrister Chima Naji.
Thank you very much.
And also to the right of Barrister Naji, we have a constitutional lawyer and the president of the Voters Awareness Initiative, Wale Ogwade.
Thank you for inviting me, and good evening, Nigerians.
You're welcome to Politics Today. Well, straight to, okay, let's start with the issue we've just we've just discussed, the issue of the disenfranchisement of voters in Bakassi. Is it possible, legally possible, for a local government, a legally recognized entity in Nigeria? I mean, is it possible for someone to just go to court and say, look, these people in this area must not take part in an electoral process? I'll start with you, Mr. Naji.
Well, unfortunately, the senator
Florence Etagiwa had just stated that the parties that were purported to have gone to court as claimants have denied ever doing that. Because it would have been nice to know who actually was behind that suit and what actually would the person stand to gain. If not for the fact that perhaps that because of the situation between Bakassi local government, Nigeria and Cameroon, perhaps the area that was known during the time of registration as Bakassi may no longer be geographically the same area now.
But she did say just last year they participated in the presidential,
anything could have happened even a week elections. Or two later. You understand? I'm just taking a hypothetical case to build the case within the confines of the law as it is. The Electoral Act envisages that those who should register will register in a place they are normally resident or work. And if you registered in a place perhaps that, like she mentioned, many people go back to their areas of perhaps their states of origin to register during the registration period. If they had gone back to register there and that place no longer exists or have been threatened, there's a provision in the Act where there could be transfer of voters registration, and this should have been done en masse, okay, to accommodate the new realities in the reconfiguration of the boundaries of Nigeria, perhaps. And in any case, having failed to take advantage of that provisions in the Electoral Act, and election has now taken place. For whatever reason, whether somebody went to court or it was impossible for them to have voted by whatever circumstance, and given the result of that election, I think Section 139 of the Electoral Act as amended would consider that 6,000 votes, if there were 6,000 people, as stated,
that's right,
given the margin of winning, and the fact that that 6,000 votes were supposed to have gone to the same winner, it will not be considered that their non-voting would have substantially affected the possible outcome if they had voted.
Well, it would have been very interesting to hear, that particular case argued in court, but unfortunately, there was
who will canvass it?
there was no room for that, and right now, a lot of people, 6,000 people, are rather aggrieved. But then, let's move from the issue of Bakassi to the issue that actually resulted in the elections holding in Cross River State yesterday in the first place. The fact that the Supreme Court sacked 5 state governors and ordered that elections should be conducted in those states. Now, very interesting issue, and yes, indeed, it's been discussed severally at several fora, but still the question on the minds of a lot of Nigerians is that how come mathematics suddenly became such a factor in a court case, or in a legal issue that moved from the Election Petitions Tribunal to the apex court, in this case the calculation of time. Mr. Ogunade.
Thank you very much. I just want to chip in to put a little flesh to my brother's submission. I didn't know what happened. I was in Calabar for the elections yesterday.
Okay.
Fortunately, my group monitored in Calabar, Municipal and Southern Calabar. And of course, I didn't know what happened. The guide, after we've done everything, we just wanted to go to another part towards the cultural center or so. The guy who was driving us around just said, let's go to the waterfront. That's where the Bakassi side. We went to the waterfront. And when we got there, it was just normal activity. No voting took place. I was asking, the guy said we shouldn't wait here, that if we wait, because they will see us because we are dead in the electoral monitors, observer attire. Okay. That if they see us, they will take us as government officials and they will cause trouble. That it's a hot place and so on and so forth. So we just drove past. Of course, there was not no election. All I just saw was that, well, That was my first time of going to that area. I just saw the marine, the activities, colonial activities, the ships, wrecks, and so on the waterfront. But yeah, be that as it may, now to the question, of course, my brother has alluded to that, but when I just asked them why, they said, we don't know anything. They just say court day. But again, I just want to use this opportunity that we should just allow things to go the way they should go. In this country, what I just observed is that we are more prone to fire brigade approaches. An event will be coming up on a Monday or Saturday. You'll find out that last minute on Friday, that's when someone will file an course suit or an application to frustrate or to disturb the system.
So evidently there's a loophole somewhere.
Obviously, which people exploit. And of course, it now dovetails into your question that how does this issue now become mathematical? Why won't it be mathematical? Because some people again want to take advantage of the system. I mean, the Constitution is clear. It's 180 days. That's it's Section 180, sub 21. That once you take your oath of office, it is 4 years. No go come. So if you now have a rerun, there is just an automatic thing. And of course, we've distinguished it time without number. The Ladoja case is different from the Ngige case. In Ladoja, the man was governor. Along the line, he was impeached. And again, he was restored. And of course, unfortunately, he thought that that period in which he was impeached has been removed, and he had to have it. He went to court, and the court said, "No, your term is not in question. Your impeachment does not disturb your oath of office and your timing. Your term of mandate of 4 years is intact." For Ngige against Obi, the man took office. That's Obi took oath of office on in February 2008, I can't remember now, 2009 or so, when he took his own oath of office. And of course, that's when the clock begins to tick. And it's quite distinguishable. These ones now, they held an election, they occupied office, and they now said they took another oath of office. Obviously, there is no such provisions in the Constitution. And for God's sake, we run a constitutional government. And if anything is not in the Constitution, nobody can import it by own will, crook or hook, into the Constitution.
Well, most times it is the presentation of lawyers like you, and of course the interpretation probably of the judge. But a very interesting thing here in that determined, or rather that led to the Supreme Court Chief Justice and his panel of judges taking the decision. I actually came across it while reading through that portion of the Constitution, and it says, in interpreting a constitution, a judge extracts the legal meaning along the range of the text's various semantic meanings. One should not give the Constitution a meaning that its express or implied language cannot sustain, and that implied language is a language written in invisible ink between the lines and derived from the entire structure of the Constitution. But you see, this is a double-edged sword. The judges of the appeal court read between the lines and came up with their own interpretation, and so when they arrived at their decision, they said, look, the judgment nullifying the election of these governors has now made it in such a way that from the moment they took the second oath of office, that was when their tenures began to run. So, I mean, how would you explain this in the light of the text of the judgment delivered by the Supreme Court justices? I mean, of course, we know that in law, semantics also plays a very important role.
Well, semantics is the science of the meaning of words. If you don't understand the meaning of words, then there's no way you can deploy them, nor would you be able to decipher them. In interpreting the law, there are different rules, and the rules do not apply at all instances. So you look at the one that would be most applicable. In a simple scenario, you just take the literal rule that if you say go, there's no need to import any other meaning to go, because everybody understands what go is. If I say come, that's it. So the Supreme Court ruling, the decision of the Supreme Court on this matter actually has helped to save this country. Otherwise, one single man out of mischief could rule the state in perpetuity. Or even if he did not think that way, some group of people who have beneficiaries of his stay in office will contrive such situation that will give rise to perpetual governance.
So no matter, I mean, depending on how many times governors
when he's about 3 years plus, something will happen. Yes, something will happen.
And then he gets another 4 years in office.
Yes, and trust Nigerians, they were going to exploit this to the best of their ability. So what actually happened is that it is now difficult if a matter has not gotten to the Supreme Court, and I think that is the wisdom in having this second amendment, or what they call second, they don't call it amendment, second alteration of the Constitution. Unlike the American Constitution, there's an amendment.
The alteration,
yes, they call our own alteration. Semantically, they are the same.
Absolutely.
But by law, that is what is used. So, by second amendment, the Supreme Court now is seized of matters that come from appeal court on governorship elections. Unlike when the thing terminated at the appeal court. Now, you see, if a matter has not gotten to the Supreme Court, even though the appeal court had the terminal jurisdiction on that election and in governorship elections under the previous Electoral Act, you find that such issues, once they have not been ventilated at the Supreme Court, you don't have a sense of finality. But having that, alteration, inserting that the Supreme Court should have jurisdiction over such matters, it gives the opportunity for a third level, especially in a scenario where the judiciary itself has come in the limelight with allegations of corruption of some judges. So you may no longer be too comfortable, because one appeal tribunal there will give its own, there was no coordination. You found that one appeal court sitting in a location will give one decision which may be diametrically opposed to the ratio that the other decision is portraying. But the harmonization now comes when the Supreme Court has the opportunity of pronouncing on that. So at least everybody now knows that if you are going to make sure that you bribe your way from all the angles, you need to really extend your purse. And perhaps at a certain level, like in the Supreme Court, it is expected that Caesar's wife should be above suspicion.
Exactly. Well, of course, I mean, the Supreme Court has actually taken some very, I would like to choose to use the word sensational. And of course, I've seen what you've jotted down, Mr. Ogunade, but that exactly is what I was coming to.
Okay.
The judgment in the case of the Kebbi State election. Well, a court delivered a ruling and said, okay, this is the judgment. But then we will now give the reason for the judgment at a later date. And it was actually based on that technicality that the Supreme Court sacked the governor of Kebbi State, Saidu Dekingeri. But then, I mean, a very curious case indeed. But then, that judgment wasn't declared based on a technicality rather than on the substance of the matter itself.
Unfortunately, in the legal profession, there is no way we will not use technicality, because it's part of the process, it's part of the legal activities.
But I mean, it's something that citizens and I'm sure members of the legal community have also been complaining about. That, I mean, so many technicalities have actually been causing court cases to drag on and on and on.
Unfortunately, again, that's where it comes in. And that's where people must be more aware and more involved in the process. You see, judges don't make law. it is the lawmakers that make law. And note it, lawmakers are not constitution makers. So it is the judges that, it is the lawmakers that make law. And that's where you and me and I and you comes in terms of ensuring that indeed you pick the right people to be your legislators. Because as we see now, all these laws are sworn of confusion. And not until we have good men, people who are passionate about Nigeria to ensure that we have the good laws to make Nigeria work, we'll continue to group in this dark. So when we don't have good laws, we'll be overworking and flogging the judiciary and lawyers to ensure that we have a good law in the system. It is when we have good men in the National Assembly, in the state houses of assembly, who will make law for good governance, as we say, then that we have good laws. So in that instance, that's it. But again, for this issue now, we find out that definitely the technicality comes out because the provisions of the Constitution is clear that judgment must be delivered in this matter within 60 days.
Judgment was delivered?
No, they resolved the judgment in the Court of Appeal matter. In the Court of Appeal matter.
Yes. The judgment was delivered, but then it was the reason. The reason,
that's it now. It's not complete. It was an equate thing. And not until it is the whole process is done, then obviously it's not carried out. It's not done to the letter, to the spirit of the law.
Yes, Mr. Naji.
I wouldn't want to subscribe wholly to the argument that this decision was based on technicality. The law is very, very clear and express. Under the second alteration, okay? Please, I would rather now use amendment, but I should be understood as referring to alteration. Now, under that second amendment, which is called alteration, the appeal court was divested of its finality status in decisions concerning governorship election of petitions on governorship matters. So, Supreme Court now became the final appellate court on the matter. Therefore, it ceased to have the capacity to reserve reasons, which is a constitutional provision. It is constitutional for a court to give, the appellate court to give judgment and reserve reasons.
So am I to understand that the Supreme Court stepped in and stripped the appeal court of
it didn't step in. It is in the Constitution. I said in the alteration, the Supreme Court was empowered, has become empowered. It was not looking into election matters concerning governorship, except on pre-election issues. You understand? But the Constitution, under the second alteration, granted that power to the Supreme Court. Now, the appellate court, the appeal court perhaps did not remember, the panel perhaps did not remember that it was no longer the final court.
Oh, so it is only the final arbiter that has the authority to reserve its judgment.
No. Supreme Court and Appeal Court have the authority.
Yes.
But like you heard the Supreme Court say, it is Appeal Court ought to have done everything within 60 days, because the parties before that court still had the right of appeal to the Supreme Court. So if it's just like when you are told you must finish your food and attend class. That means you finish your food, even if you have to go and fetch water to drink, wash your plate and attend class. You don't attend class and then come back to wash the plate. That means you have not finished your food. So that's what the Supreme Court is saying here. But it is not technical that the Supreme Court or Appeal Court should give judgment and reserve reason. But it must be done in the case of Appeal Court, because it is only a gateway to the final court. You understand? Which is the Supreme Court. Now, even the Supreme Court still is bound under the Constitution to give that judgment and still give reason within 60 days.
Well, nobody.
It is not so much of a technical. It is very simple. It's very straightforward.
Unfortunately, there's no court of superior authority who would.
Supreme Court is the final. It has said so, and it said so. To do it. It said so. It says so. It's the law.
The Supreme Court knows. Just as it said.
It's the law.
The Court of Appeal also ought to know.
They probably were operating on the old law before the second alteration. However, equity, in terms of equity, if it was possible to apply equity here without using the sharpness of the law to preserve the governorship of Dakingari, is it? What the Supreme Court probably could have done, that since the error was committed by the appeal court, not the parties before it,
Absolutely.
you should not visit
the sins of the appeal court on the governor.
But that is if it was minded to do so. If it was minded to do so. But that is the law as it is for now.
The next governorship election, the Edo State Governor Adams Oshiomhole did accuse the People's Democratic Party of planning to rig the forthcoming governorship election in the state. Mr. Oshiomhole, who made the accusations at the AC and state executive meeting in Benin, the Edo State capital, said the PDP had perfected plans to doctor the electoral registers by engaging fake youth corps members and as well print fake voters' cards abroad for the purpose of the forthcoming governorship election in the state. But the governor also expressed confidence in the ability of the Action Congress of Nigeria to win the election, and he said he was confident that the efforts of the PDP once more to take the ACN back to the courts to retrieve its mandate will fail. Well, reacting to the governor's accusations, the Edo State chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Dan Obi, described the statement of the governor as an indictment of the Independent National Electoral Commission, which has been adjudged to have conducted free and fair elections across the country. Mr. Oshiomhole acknowledged the encomiums from leaders of his party, the ACN, over his development projects and urged them to be cautious over alleged plans by the PDP to rig the forthcoming elections. But then, of course, the PDP themselves have organized their own primaries, and contender has emerged to face off with Governor Adams Oshiomhole in the forthcoming elections. But for now, we are being joined by the legal advisor to the Edo State Action Congress of Nigeria, Mr. Henry Idahagbon. Well, the name does sound like that of a very popular politician in your state. Welcome to Politics Today.
Thank you very much. But let me state that I'm a legal advisor to the government of Edo State and not to the actual Congress.
Well, you are a member of the Action Congress of Nigeria, but of course, let us not dress you in borrowed robes. Exactly. Point taken.
Thank you.
Well, your opponents, the PDP, your principal opponents have organized their own primaries. The Action Congress of Nigeria has not organized primaries. I mean, I believe Governor Oshiomhole has been adopted as the compromise candidate, so to say, of the ACN. Yes, good record or not, but is this not a contravention of the principles of democracy?
No, not at all. The PDP had their primaries yesterday. I want to say with all sense of responsibility that it was an exercise in futility because they didn't need to have any primary. They needed to put all their 5 aspirants together to have a chance against the comrade governor. But they have isolated the 4 and have chosen one, and we are waiting for them come July 14th.
Oh, definitely.
Well, let me tell you this. The ACN will conduct their own primaries. Maybe in the next 2-3 weeks, we will have our own primaries. The offices are open, the ACN offices are open in Edo State for people who want to run against the governor to go and collect forms. They are free. The ACN is a democratic party founded on pure democracy where the people are allowed to participate. So, I know a couple of people who are interested in running for the governorship under ACN, but they are probably afraid of the overwhelming performance of the governor and probably biding their time waiting for 2016. But that is not to say that they are not allowed under our rules and party constitution from collecting the form. If I, sitting before you, believe that I can defeat the governor in the primary election, I'll go get my form as soon as I get back to Benin tomorrow. So we are going to conduct our own primaries. And if there is nobody out to challenge the governor, then of course we will still vote on it. It will be a yes or no vote on it, on whether or not it should be the party's candidate.
We'll be looking forward to that, and definitely we'll be taking you up on that.
No, of course, you will see it on channels. Channels will be there. You will see it.
Most definitely. Yes. Now, to the issue of the allegations raised by the governor of Edo State,
yes.
Mr. Oshiomhole,
yes.
about the People's Democratic Party perfecting plans to rig the elections. I mean, do you have any evidence to substantiate all these allegations?
Well, of course, let me start by saying that I am a former member of the PDP, and
you know how it works.
Of course, I do. I do. I don't know how it works. The PDP, strictly speaking, has never won any election in Edo State. Let me tell you, before the governor will come on air and make such weighty allegations, he's the chief security officer of the state. He must have information that is ordinarily not available to the common folks.
Are you trying to tell me that back in 1999, when Governor Igbenedion came into power, it wasn't a legal and transparent and fair victory?
Look, I say with all sense of responsibility that in Edo State, the PDP has never won any election freely and squarely. I say it with all sense of responsibility, and I speak from benefit of a former insider. But let me say this. The plans of the PDP, they are well known to us in the Action Congress, and we are ready for them. We are ready to meet them fire for fire, like the police would say. They plan to change the electoral commissioner. That's their normal, it's a standard practice by the PDP approaching any election in any part of this country, specifically in Edo State. They plan to change the commissioner of police because they have the power. These are all federal actors and they have the power. Then thirdly, they plan to make NYSC uniform for registered PDP members who will impersonate NYSC members on election day so that they will have access to sensitive election materials.
These for now are mere allegations.
They are mere allegations.
But the question is, do you have any evidence to substantiate these allegations? That's the question I asked.
No, we do have evidence. That's why I said before the governor will come on air to make such allegations, he must have evidence. In any case, there's what we call similar fact evidence in law, because I'm also a lawyer. The fact that in every previous elections they've always done this.
Now, is it possible for the People's Democratic Party to interfere with a process that is entirely an INEC affair? Remember, the Independent National Electoral Commission has actually received a lot of encomiums about the performance, especially the conduct of elections in the country, at least recently. But if you're saying that the People's Democratic Party intend to intercept the process, even printing fake ballot papers abroad...
No, not ballot, result sheets. They plan to print result sheets from China or from South Africa.
And then give it to INEC officials to announce the results.
No, let me say this. There is no doubt that there's a remarkable improvement in the conduct of elections in this country since the coming on board of Professor Atairu Jega. No doubt about it. Under the former INEC chairman, Maurice Ewu, anything was possible, and all these things were done under Maurice Ewu. So we have absolute confidence in Jega's led INEC. But the problem is, Jega cannot be everywhere at the same time. And Jega cannot be the electoral commissioner in Edo State. He cannot be the returning officers in Edo State. He cannot be the EOs in Edo State. And that's why we are raising the alarm, timeously and with promptitude. So that once we put the INEC office on notice, they would nip that plan in the bud. That is the purpose. Because if not nipped in the bud, PDP will come out that day, will dress up NYSC member, fake people with NYSC uniform. They are even prepared to make police and military uniform for PDP talks to wear in order to disrupt the elections. They are prepared to transpose the voters register. They want to take the names, swap the names from polling booth A to polling booth B, so that when people go to polling booth A, they won't find their names on the register. And once your name is not found on the register, you cannot vote.
Well, you see, it's most unfortunate that the PDP member did not turn up for this particular discussion. It would have been very, very interesting.
Any day that is prepared to come,
we are actually answered, or should I say, reply to these allegations. But yes, we have our searchlight on the process, and then we'll find out if it happens exactly as you have said, and if not, then of course I'll bring you on this forum.
I'll be glad to come back. I'll be glad to come back
and then tell you that, okay, well, unfortunately those allegations were unfounded. But yes, we are done with the issue of Edo State for now. We definitely will be going back to that state when the elections proper come on. But then a governor, having spent 7 months in office, has a very intimidating, okay, I'm being sarcastic, scorecard here. But in Imo State, in the southeast of the country, the governor, Mr. Rochas Okorocha, has been accused by many of having an over-bloated cabinet. The governor, however, defended himself, including against his staunch critics when he delivered an address to reel out his plans for the state. Anyway, we had an interview with some of his commissioners, some of the commissioners in his cabinet, and, well, this was the reaction we got.
Local government by its inception has not met the purpose by which it was meant for. Because of corruption. For example, Nigeria is rich, but the people are poor. Why? It's corruption. In a place, we import what we have and export what we need. So, when the head of state is correct, and people want to be sincere to themselves, I think that money will be enough to solve the problem. The Imo today is not Imo of yesterday, because there is a vision.
I mean, he's been in power for 7 months.
Yes.
Thereabout.
And Imo is transformed. For example, in the local government, the 27 local governments of Imo State, for the first time in their history, had witnessed a tremendous change in all ramifications. First and foremost, the local system now, as we're talking about, we have 15-kilometer routes going on in the 27 local governments. Put together, it's 405-kilometer routes, unheard of in the history of Nigeria. Massive road work is going on. Now you ask me, how did you get this money? It's about planning. For now, we have construction of mini-cities in Imo State. We have also construction of guest houses in all the local governments. We have construction of mini stadium in the 27 local governments. We have construction of a general hospital in 27 local governments. Now you ask me, how do you come up with this money? And I will tell you, it's planning. When you properly plan, you get there. From what he has at hand now, and what is going on in Imo State today, is not even enough.
Really?
I will tell you this much. For example, have you heard about community governance in Imo State? The fourth tier coming on board, which is in the hands of the House of Assembly now to put into law. And in the community governance, the elders in the various communities now will be the chairman of the community. There must be election of the PGs.
So why do you need a local government chairman?
Why do you need a local government? It is to stimulate the local government. Let me say this. Power without strength is expression of weakness. Local has the power. Community is the strength. Without community, no local government. And over the years, the experience has shown that money being sent doesn't get to the people, to the grassroots, to the doorstep. Now, power is going to the people, and the grassroots has to take over through participatory approach and bottom-top approach. A bottom-top approach we are talking about here today is to make the community strong, so people can participate in their own development. Can you be that? The intra-party does the job as intra, and the inter-party is outside the party.
What I'm saying is one person could actually handle both portfolios.
It all depends on how one sees it. But as much as we're concerned, they're very busy doing the job. Now, for the first time, His Excellency appointed the Special Advisor on Peace and Conflict Resolution. You know what that means?
Absolutely. I mean,
all the classes and autonomous communities are being handled
on MDGs.
Exactly. It's vision. It's vision per excellence.
An official, a comedian.
It's vision per excellence. Yeah. Like I was saying before, in the communities, we have the PGs, we have the community speakers. Innovation. We have the woman leader, we have the youth leader, and we have the Eze, who is the chairman of the community governance.
He made a commitment to education during his campaign, and he started immediately when he was sworn to office to implement free and qualitative education. Free and qualitative education. In fact, after his swearing in, those who paid fees, parents who paid fees, we are giving back their fees. And he has kept to his promise. It is a very comprehensive free education in Imo State. Primary, secondary, and now we are going up to tertiary institution. It's like that. Yes, he gives for the primary, for the secondary, which we've started from the day he was sworn in. They don't pay fees. We are now providing them with school bags, shoes, sandals. That's their school sandals, their textbooks. We are providing them with books. We are providing them with pens, bureau, and etc. And then we paid the children. Yes, we paid them bursary, and we now intend to pay them.
How much is that?
Okay, for example, those in the tertiary, we are going to pay them 100,000 per student.
Every year, every month?
Annually. Those in the secondary school, those in the polytechnic, like Omagu, we pay them 80,000 naira. So for Polytechnic, HND we pay them 80, OND we pay them 60, then 40 for the secondary school, 25 for the primary school.
Well then, should I say an enviable track record of achievement there, but well, the trumpet of Governor Rocha's Okorocha being blown loud and clear, even with an over-bloated cabinet. Well, it's not the beginning that matters, but the end. This is where we come to the end of politics today, and I'd like to thank my last guest on the show, the legal advisor to the government of Edo State, Mr. Henry Idahagbon. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Let me present you with some of these achievement, documentary evidence of the achievement of the comrade governor in Edo State.
Well, then we'll be taking him up on that on a later edition of the program. I'm Charles Eruka. Have a very good night.